What's up, girl dads? I have another special guest I'm super excited about because it is a fun story. She actually reached out to me on Instagram and said she wanted to talk to the dads. And I was like, really? Like, this is crazy. Like, this is the first lady that has reached out and wanted to talk to dads about parenting. And I thought it was so interesting. And I thought it was a unique perspective. And so Rebecca is here with us. Rebecca, why don't you just give us a quick intro, who you are, what you do, and we'll get into your topic.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So, yeah, I'm Rebecca. I am based in the UK and I am a mindset coach. So, my background is up until 4 years ago, I was just living my life in a leadership role in a corporate organization. Always been super driven, always been really into personal development. And I got pregnant. I was single and I quite quickly then learned that I was not just able to just do everything on basically just like everything that I was doing essentially at that moment in time changed. I wasn't just doing everything for me anymore. I was then bringing in another human. Since then, I decided that I wanted to launch my own business. So my first business was launched in January 2020 in the travel industry, which is an online business. And then that led me then um, into coaching. And the reason why that came about was obviously, like I said, I've got this background in personal development. I've always been into learning and growing myself. And then I went through quite a lot of adversity whilst I was pregnant, obviously doing the whole thing single. Cutting a long story short, because I know obviously this is a short episode, the things that I went through was quite challenging. Obviously, the financial impact, obviously knowing that I was going on maternity leave, I wasn't going to be getting the same level of income. And it was very challenging as well in terms of like the symptoms and all of that kind of stuff that you experience. I didn't have someone there rubbing my back when I was throwing up and that kind of stuff, yeah. And then, so I launched my business in January. People thought I was crazy because I was already, I already went back to work super early, like I said, because I couldn't take the hit on the income for a long time. Went back to work super early. People were like, you're a single mom. I found a partner in that time, but he lives on the other side of the UK. So very much still solo parenting. They're like, you're a solo parent, you are working this crazy job, you're doing all these things, and now you're starting a business. And I was like, yeah. And then some people at the time just didn't get it. I was working in the travel industry for a couple of months, and then we went into full lockdown, and no one was flying. So obviously that was a bit of a wild time. That time again was another really challenging time for me because I'm one of them people who I always have people who come to me. People always come to me for support. So people were struggling with their mental health and people were struggling, obviously, like being isolated at home. But then I was isolating at home with what then was my 2-year-old, trying to work a full-time job in a leadership role, trying to navigate around what's going to happen, like what's going to happen to my team, deciding whether people should be on furlough or whether they need to move around the business, having to make really challenging decisions. At the same time, potty training my wild child who's swinging on my head, doing naked somersaults behind me when I'm on a Zoom call. So yeah, it was a bit wild. And then during that time, obviously with people, like I said, who were struggling mentally, I thought, you know what, even though I'm struggling myself, I still feel like I have value that I can give to others. So that's when I started to go live on social media. Even though I'd been working on personal development for a long time, it wasn't necessarily a public thing. It was more just the people who I work with who saw that side of me. I started going live on social media around mindset and stuff completely out of my comfort zone. And then that eventually led me into developing it into a coaching business because I thought, hang on, people are getting value from this. I was getting quite a lot of messages about it. And I thought, let me see how many people I could actually reach and help. And then that's how I'm doing what I'm doing. But yeah, the big thing with that is my little girl really helped me because even though it was a challenging time, I really knew what I was made of. I definitely wasn't living up to my full potential before I had her. And yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, doesn't that change? Like, sorry, just to comment on that really quick, but I got a question for you. But it's amazing that you don't realize your true potential until I didn't anyway. I'll speak for myself until I had kids. Like I never thought I thought I understood what love was Then I had a kid, and I always joked that it was like the Grinch, right? And his heart grew 3 sizes that day, you know, like, and it's just like, oh my God, I had no, like, what I thought I knew was a fraction of what we're potentially capable of when you bring in a child for us to care for. It's amazing. But
Mhm.
I want to ask about it. So I love that you said that people thought it was crazy that you would start your own business with all these things, because like that's something that I struggle with too, is that, you know, the hustle culture and everything that's going on right now, they basically say that you got to sacrifice everything to succeed. But as a parent, we can't sacrifice everything, right? We cannot just throw our kid to the wolves, but at the same time, we can't just, you know, fall to the wayside for ourselves, because then what kind of parent are we going to be? That, you know, it's such a weird, tricky spot. So like, how did you come to that conclusion and then and go from there as a parent, and then now you decided to go ahead and just start it up?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that. So with me, I was, even though I did go through some adversities whilst I was pregnant, I was also very focused on making sure that I tried to keep the same lifestyle, obviously minus the alcohol,
Right,
anytime
right.
I was socializing, changing the cocktails to mocktails. But I made sure that I was still doing as much as I could to try and keep my lifestyle the same. And the reason for that at first was initially just for my own well-being. I thought, I don't
Mm,
want to be the mumsy mum who's just staying in, just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, getting
right.
more and more and more sad, getting more and more and more isolated, because all my friends were doing what they wanted. Like I said, I was on my own in my house. So I think
Resenting your
partly,
kid. Mhm.
yeah, so I just didn't want to be like that. And I just thought, I'm not like that anyway.
Mhm.
Luckily, I was already, like I said, already into personal development. So I understood the value of growing myself. And I thought, you know what? It's not me. I'm not that person. So luckily, I was still being sociable. I was still getting dressed and going out for food and doing all of that. I worked literally until the day I went into hospital, which I don't necessarily advise anyone to do. But I was just keeping as occupied as possible. And like my boss at the time, who I was working with, was like, that's not that, you can't do that because we need to know when you're going off. And I was like, I don't actually need to let you know when I'm going off. I'll let you know when I'm in hospital and I'm about to give birth. And he was like, okay. And then so that's how it sort of went. And then when I had her, like I said, I went back to work quite quickly. I only was on I don't know how it works in the US in terms of mat leave, but in the UK, you can have up to a year off work. I couldn't have a year off work without having that income. So I only had a few months off, and then we went straight back into working full time. And um, I didn't really like it at first because I was working in the city at the time, and
Mm.
obviously I had to like set off early. I was getting back really, really late, so I did feel really bad. I had serious mum guilt, but at the same time, I thought um, I would be doing her a disservice by cutting back on my lifestyle that I knew that she could have. I was already prior to being pregnant and during my pregnancy traveling a lot. I was still traveling to the US. I've got family in Oregon. I was flying over there when I was heavily pregnant.
Hmm.
Again, not something everyone wants to do, but I did it. I traveled to Spain. I went to Portugal. I was doing loads, and I thought, I want my little girl to experience the world with me. I want her to be my plus one. I don't want to have to put my life on hold because, like I said, because I was being, I wanted her to experience
Mhm.
everything that I was experiencing. I knew
Right.
that I wasn't going to be able to keep up that lifestyle by cutting back my hours and slowing down. So then, if anything, it made me more driven because I thought, I want to give her the best life possible. Obviously, it was only me financing her. It's only me who finances her now. I had the vision of, right, she's going to private school. She's traveling multiple times a year. And I'm able to give her that life through my work ethic. If I would have slowed down and took a step back, one, she wouldn't be learning work ethic. I learned work ethic
Mm.
off my parents. The
Mhm.
second thing, we wouldn't be going, we wouldn't be traveling multiple times a year. She wouldn't have been, she was a newborn when we first went away. And I like that. She's well behaved on the plane because she's used to it. She's
Yeah.
sociable, she's confident. And I feel like because I'm being the best version of myself, it's having a positive impact on her as well. Like, even though I was well and truly loved by my parents, I'm sure a lot of people are, they weren't necessarily the best in terms of mentorship, in terms of business,
Mhm.
personal development. And that's something where I felt if I had that at a younger age, I would have really benefited from it. So that's something that I'm trying to show her as well.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from essentially. And like you said, it is a different kind of love, and it's the kind of love where I want her to experience everything that I'm able to experience, or that I was able to experience before I got pregnant, and more. There's so many places that I still want to take, and so many things that I want to do. And yeah, it's just about finding that balance though. Like you can do, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And it's just about, just instead of, I'll just swap out unproductive things. I very rarely, as an example, will sit there watching Netflix all night, because I know that I could be, while she's asleep, doing something in order to get us something much bigger. Do you know what I mean? Not saying I don't watch TV. Of course I do from time to time. But I think it's just, I'm just very conscious of how I spend my time. When I'm spending time with a little girl, it's her. Like she's like literally everything. Like she gets all of the attention. But then when I'm working on my businesses, it's all in on my businesses. And like I said, I'm very intentional, very productive. I always have a certain sense of urgency with everything that I do. And I think that's helpful, because if I was just floating around the day, I wouldn't get anything done. And then obviously being a parent does come first. So it's quite easy to invest all of your time into that, float around everything else in life. And then essentially, like, this is where like some people end up, you know, feeling down and, like you said, resenting the children, or where parents begin to lose themselves and they think, oh gosh, I can't even remember what it used to be like when I did, like, some people say to me, oh, like, I can't travel because I'm a mum, or I can't travel because I'm a dad. It's like, absolutely you can. Like, look at me. I travel multiple times a year with her. So yeah, and that's I suppose the thing, that if anyone's going to, you know, take anything from what I say on anything, whether it's a podcast, whether it's on an Instagram live, or they see me in public, like, the key thing is just, like, they don't have to put the life on hold. And I suppose, like, I'm a big advocate for that. And anytime I see other parents doing the same, I'm just like, yeah, you've got it. You don't have, like, you can fully live your life and let them live theirs together, and just be happy. And there's no limit to what you can achieve together.
Right. And I love how you're describing about, because one of the things that I think this year that I've really been formulating in my mind is incorporating, right? So like, just include your kids and stuff. Like you don't have to stop. You can just include them. And does it look a little different? Sure, it looks a little different. But one of the things that me and my wife never really understood were, like, grown-ups only parties. And, like, at some point we saw that there was people that aged and then didn't like kids anymore. And that didn't make sense to me. And I was like, well, like, we had kids because they're part of our life now. And, like, I'm always going to love kids because they're the future potential, all of these things. So, like, why would we want to not invest? Like, why would we want to cut them off and shove them away? Like, no, incorporate them, teach them these things, show them this life, and not separate them and put them off to the side with a babysitter that, you know, like, that just doesn't make sense. They're missing out on so many lessons that they can learn from you living your life.
Exactly. My girl comes everywhere with me. She comes out for meals out with the girls. Like I said, she goes on vacation with me. She comes shopping with me. Like, she does everything with me. And of course, there are some times where I do things with the girls on my own, because obviously sometimes you need a bit of a break. Like I said, I'm here on my own with her. Right. Yeah, exactly. It's having that balance. But no one would say, oh, you can't bring your child. So if I don't take her somewhere, it's because I'm choosing not to take her, because I actually just want a bit of time to myself, which is absolutely fine too. But I'd say a good 95% of the time she's with me. She comes everywhere, and people like it. They think she's fun, and it's because she's getting used to speaking to people, because she's out doing things with me. Of course, she does kids stuff. Yes, I take her to play centres. Yes, I take her on trips out. Yes, I take her to kiddie theme parks, and she has loads of fun. But then also she'll come and do my stuff with me, and she seems to enjoy it. She's fantastic. She's old enough to tell me now that she doesn't. So.
If she doesn't like it or not. Yeah. I love
she's
that.
Very opinionated.
So if there was, if we have a dad out there listening who wants to get something started, but they have a kid and they're, like, trying to figure out, like, should they, shouldn't they, like, what is one good first step, like a baby step to, like you said, kind of going after your dream and not sacrificing being a parent? Like, what's that first thing that they do to help that transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing it's around your mindset, I would say. So
Mm,
make your children your reason, not your excuse.
love that.
They are the reason why you get up every morning. They are the reason why you want to better your life. They're the reason why if you've got financial goals, you probably make them bigger. They're the
Hmm.
reason why you want a nice homely home for them. They're the reason why you're doing pretty much everything. You're not just doing it for yourself anymore. So the first step is a mindset. And just realize that every
Yes.
single thing that you're doing is for them, essentially, and then the rest will just flow. Just don't hold yourself back, and just realize that anything is possible. Like, just look around, like look at the most successful entrepreneurs who you
Hmm.
can see, like Tony Robbins, loads of different people on social media who all have families. They're not, putting the family to the sidelines. The family is part of what they do. And I think it's really, really important.
I love that. I think that is spot on. I think that is the first foundational step. I love that. Rebecca, why don't you let everybody know where to find you, how to reach out to you, how to connect with you, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So my main platform's Instagram, so you can catch me at Rebecca Sonuga. So it's REBECCASONUGA. Also on email, so info@RebeccaSonuga.com. So info@REBECCASONUGA.com. They're the best places to get me. I'm also on Facebook as well, but my main platform's Instagram, and obviously by email too.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Rebecca, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. That's a great message. I'm very thankful for you. And let's have some more awesome parents doing awesome things. I love it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.